Let's get sweaty.
Hey guys, welcome to another Shenmue Dojo video. Today's video I'm going to be looking at Shenmue and whether it could cross over into the fighting game genre. Now this video is inspired by the blog that Hiki put together. I'm just going to chuck this up on the forums for you so you can absolutely see it for everybody. It should be popping up now. The link I will also put in the YouTube description below so you can have a look at it. But Hiki put this blog together around Shenmue and whether it could essentially cross over into the fighting genre and goes into some sort of detail around that. And thank you, Hiki, for the work, not just on this, but also the work on the other blog posts that you've done as well. Guys, make sure you check that out as sort of context to this video as well, I guess. And then let me know what you think. So, Shenmue and fighting games. Well, they should go hand in hand, really. We know Shenmue has its roots in the Virtua Fighter series. It started out as Virtua Fighter RPG, later morphed into Shenmue, originally following the story of Akira, who then obviously changed into Ryo Hazuki. So for this video, I wanted to check out whether Shenmue could cross over to a full fighting game, or potentially in some other way, such as DLC. So looking at the full game package. Now, like I said, I've borrowed a lot of this from Hiki's blog post. So again, check it out. Shenmue has a ton of skilled martial artists that could transition over into its own fighting game. You've obviously got Ryo and Landy. Outside of them, so you've got Guizhang, you've got Zhuing, you've got Chai, you've got Mr. G, for example, Yang Lang, Ren. You could even go to some of the Street Fighters, for example, as well. There are plenty of characters there who are trained martial artists that you could use. You could also use some other secondary characters like Fang Mei with her broom, for example. That could be quite good. Tom, he has he can do some martial arts. Even Goro, if you wanted to go down that route as well. But there are plenty of characters there that could transition into a fighting game, each with their own unique styles, each with their own unique look, character. All together could work really, really well. And a good engine could theoretically show this off to its true potential. Now, speaking of this engine, you'd have to do the Virtua Fighter engine. Virtua Fighter 5 Ultimate Showdown would be ideal. Now, I know people will be going to me, well, just make Virtua Fighter 6 and put Ryo in his DLC, and I'm going to come on to that. Don't worry about it. But what I'm saying here is you could use the Virtua Fighter engine as a basis and then sort of tweak it to whatever you want to show off and give the game its own identity. The Dead or Alive series is heavily based off the work the Virtua Fighter did back in the day. So, but it has its own identity, it has its own look, it has its own feel, but you can tell it's been inspired by Virtua Fighter and the way it plays and the way it handles, but at the same time feels different. That's the sort of thing that could work for a Shenmue fighting game. It could have a unique sort of feel to it, but also at its roots be something familiar that we have all enjoyed before, like Virtua Fighter. Coming sort of away from that a little bit, all the move sets could be produced in individually. So Ryo would have his own style, Landy would have his own style, Chai would have his own style, etc, 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 and the VF engine allows you to do that as well. But coming away from that, there's also like the music. Sega music is insane. Shenmue music is insane. They lend themselves really well to fighting games. Bit of a no-brainer, right? I'm not going to talk any more about it. It's a no-brainer. Stages, again, the setting of Shenmue across 3 games, there are plenty of places that you could use for stages. Hazuki Dojo, the Cliff Temple, Niaowu Castle, the Cave, Shenhua's House, Warehouse Number 8. The list goes on. There are plenty of places that can be used. Ren's Hideout, actually, is another one that just pops into my head that, again, you can use to set stages for a fighting game. I think it needs story mode. A lot of fighting games have some sort of story or world mode these days. I think it would need something like that. Now, if you were clever about it, maybe, just maybe, you could do it that tells a story from Shenmue 1, 2, and 3. So you go through all 3 games in the fighting game, having story mode, like almost like Tekken 3 story mode, with video clips, cutscenes, fight some stages, fight an end boss, and then it just sort of links through that way. You could theoretically, if you're clever about it, tie it into the story of the first 3 Shenmue games, setting up either for another fighting installment, if you wanted to go down that road, or potentially a proper Shenmue 4. Spitballing an idea here, I just thought, why not? It's in my head, get it down, see what people think. And then you also then have your DLC for closed stages, characters, and more. The issue with this, money, of course. It's going to cost a lot of money to rig this sort of thing up and get it going. Is it realistic? I'm not sure. I like the idea. I'd be all for it. But realistically, I don't think it's going to happen. I think what's more realistic here is potentially as downloadable content DLC. So building on from what I've said around Shenmue lending itself nicely to the fighting genre, is why not have Ryo, Ren, and Landy, just as 3 characters, as DLC in Virtua Fighter 6, or even branch out into other fighting games like Tekken, maybe Street Fighter, probably pushing it out. Dead or Alive, you could certainly do. They've had the Virtua Fighter characters in there before, so I don't see why you couldn't put Shenmue characters in there potentially as well in a future Dead or Alive installment. It would be significantly cheaper to do something like this. You wouldn't have to be worrying about building the game, and actually would give the Shenmue series significant exposure cross sort of fan bases, if you like, and that could work quite well. My sort of bugbear, I guess, is this should have happened anyway. I know they did the Yakuza sort of crossover, Virtua Fighter 5 Ultimate Showdown, but I will go on record as saying that Ryo really ought to be and should be a guest character in Virtua Fighter 6 if it happens. It almost comes across, in my view, as a little bit disrespectful that he's not, given that Shenmue's roots are heavily weighed into Virtua Fighter. I know RGG did the Virtua Fighter 5 Ultimate Showdown, so they're obviously going to use their own sort of characters and skins and things for that, and I get it and I understand it. But for me, you've got to have some sort of Shenmue reference in Virtua Fighter 6, and that has to be Ryo as a guest character. And then that's almost like a test of the waters for Sega. Yeah, is this a popular DLC, for example? You could sell him for a couple of quid. How much money do they make off of it? Make a load of money. There might be an interest then for Shenmue games as well. Who knows? It's, again, just another idea. But guys, to close this video down, what do you think? Could Shenmue transition into the fighting genre? Could it be a full game, or should it be DLC? Drop some comments below, guys. Let me know what you think, and I'll be back with a video in the not too distant future. But for now, guys, take care and have a good one.